Welcome. You're tuned into the Living in Rhythm podcast, where we wax philosophy and experience in the art and science of living in rhythm. I'm Sunday, and I came here to let my soul shine. It's a lifestyle, you know what I'm saying? Can you feel it? This waxing full moon, waxing towards the fullness and the sign of Aries. I can. This is a moment where we are what I'm calling pre-eclipsing. We're pre-eclipsing into the wave cycle of the nodal phase in the axis of Aries and Libra, or what I like to call the axis of within and without. So I am so excited to talk about this because, as you may or may not know, studying the sun and moon, the solar and lunar cycles, has been a profound teaching tool for my life, for my living in rhythm. And it's what I talk about in every single episode, as well as the embodiment piece, which we will definitely be getting into today as well. But this moment where we get to experience these eclipses, they're year-and-a-half time cycles that we can really use to progress ourselves, to learn about ourselves and our own evolutionary journey. And so I want to talk a little bit about that and how we can use this time to get better at being ourselves, you know? Self-love, self-acceptance on the highest level. That's what the North Node is trying to teach us in the sign of Aries. So we're going to get into that. I also want to talk about polarity. I haven't spoken about the Hermetic principles in a while, but every full moon is an opportunity to study the principle of polarity. And so I want to get into that and the transition of the phases between, before and after polarity and the principles. Because again, these things, these sequences, these cycles, we can learn so much about how to navigate ourselves in time and space, but we can also learn about how to evolve ourselves to reach highest potentials of our own capacity and, just have fulfilling experiences and fulfilling relationships, and most importantly, a fulfilling relationship with ourselves. And so, yeah, I'm excited to share this stuff with you. But before we get into the cosmic stuff, let's take a moment to tune in. And in your own timing, take a nice deep inhale and exhale. And continue that rhythmic timing that is your own breathing, your own cycle. And as you tune in, just use the breath to help you anchor into the earth. Visualize yourself rooting and grounding into the earth, in the place where you live, in the place where you are in this moment as you're listening. And then once you feel grounded in the place that you are in your being, start to invite the energy and the breath up and out the crown into the space that's above you, the sky, the atmosphere, space. What I love about tuning into the vertical axis, I've used this comparison before, but if you're not familiar of what a quasar looks like, check it out. Quasar, baby, look it up. I like to visualize big is my point. I go big in my energetics because I have fun with my imagination. I can do that. And hopefully you do too. Part of this practicing this core calibration is very much about visualization. And some of you may or may not have heard of this term. It's called ideokinesis. It's all about the visualization process and how we can use our thoughts and our ideas to facilitate movement and presence in the body, specifically the movement kinesis. And, so many deep physical embodiment practices hold this as one of their principles. But your ability to to relate. This is so Libra, but we're looking, and Aries, we're looking to find a balance in our relationship to ourselves, in our relationship to our center. So part of the concepts around idiokinesis and this core calibration that we practice in every pod episode is about you using the visual cues and ideas that I'm offering and suggesting from my own physical practice and my own experiences as a teacher and a practitioner, a student and a teacher forever. I am offering these ideas and these visuals up for you to then hopefully to take it in for your own, in your own way, to have your own relationship, to have your own visualization. You might be sensing more colors, or you might be actually sensing yourself as like a tree, or you might visualize yourself actually just the energy or a line like a golden thread or a cord that's rooted from the earth into the sky. There's a million ways to think these things through, and I'm going into it a little more in depth this week because as we deepen, as the Aries North Node and Aries really starts to settle in, so to speak, after these, as we come towards these eclipse cycles in October and in October, basically. So we're heading into an eclipse cycle in October, and there's the energy around the eclipses just really holds a lot of weight from my own perspective. And I use these as points to, again, guide my energy. So, and to guide my life, my actual goal setting and evolutionary process, my own progress and my journey. Anyway, back to this visualization piece. Like, it's really personal. I'm really going to be hammering this so much. It's custom and it's personal. You have to, as I have to, find a relationship. We don't have to, but it is beneficial to develop a relationship with your physical presence by using visuals, because you get out of a judging state and more of an observing state. There is no right or wrong to this practice. It's yours. And I want to really reiterate that this is your timing, your rhythm, your practice. And so let's come back to the breathing again. As you take a few deep breaths and visualize your rooting toward the earth and you're rising out into space, then start to visualize the field that surrounds you in the horizontal plane. And give yourself some breaths in that awareness and just sensing, tuning in, not to judge, but to observe what you're experiencing. And it's beautiful because every day we are renewed, we get to begin again. And so I also feel like every day when we tune in, it's a different experience. There are some base level things that are me. Everywhere you go, there you are. You can't get away from yourself. So there are some foundational base things that are part of me. Also, when I take the time to tune in at any given point, wherever I am in time and space, I really try to get present with that moment and sense what's going on, sense what I'm observing. I feel guidance from this. And again, just giving yourself that timing, your own, honoring your rhythm. You're living in rhythm in your timing, and I'm living in rhythm in mine. And it's sort of like we all come to the show and everybody gets to dance and everybody has their own moves, and there's no right or wrong because we're just getting free and working on and playing and self-expressing. And so, again, that's also part of this Aries energy where the North Node is this self-love, it's unapologetically self, me. It's also expression, the way I shine and move and go in the world, because it's it really does represent the Mars in the first house, is this projection into time and space, into the moment, head first. So as you practice your breathing, as you know, I say it, I just like to remind everybody that a really great practice in between these sessions is to just tune in 1 to 3 breaths, feel that vertical plane and that horizontal plane. And then as you get into, as you get more sophisticated, you can play with the diagonal plane. I do like a straight up system scan where I get into my Merkaba spaceship and I tune in and I am actually checking and tuning into all the different diagonals and just kind of run a systems check, so to speak. And it's cool. And it's kind of funny too, because I was talking about this with a client just earlier today. I feel like the more I practice this, when you tune in throughout the day, it's like you're banking credits or something. But it honestly, the more we tune in, we can't be centered and perfect alignment all day, all the time. We're living creatures. We're moving around. But also when we practice these things and we tune in on a regular basis, just little 1 to 3 breaths here and there. And then we have our big, deep practice where we connect and focus for extended periods of time, or exercise for extended period of time, meditate extended period of time. When we do those things, that's great too. That adds in. But when we do the little tiny things throughout the day, the little 1 to 3 breaths, it's like extra credit. And you're banking credit points of centering that you're practicing this living in the day-to-day, tuning in throughout the day. The more you do that, the more your system starts to recognize that as a base, as like the baseline. And, I'm speaking so much music language right now when I when I think about the core calibration, because one part of my roots are dance. I started dancing when I was very, very young. I've been a dancer my whole life. And then I got into yoga, and then I got into Pilates, and then I got into meditation. And so it's Pilates, yoga, meditation, dance, music. These are all really, really part of my personal experience. You might have other ways that you've related to yourself or physical practice. Like you might be a tennis player or a runner. You might be weight training. There's you might like to ride your bike or go for walks or hikes, and catch really beautiful views while you're exercising. There's a million ways to connect with yourself. And that's so much of what this core calibration is about. It's coming into your physical practice, using the breath to tune in, to feel that balanced baseline of your center of gravity, harmonically aligned in a vertical plane, in the horizontal plane, in the bubble, in the field that you dwell, the space that surrounds you, that you inhabit. This is, just talking about it, I feel so much stronger in my body just talking about it. I get all puffed up, but it's cool. And then, because there's going to be times when I'm going to soften up, and it's fine. And that's great too. So there is not a right or wrong to this, but it is about finding a harmonic, a resonance and a relationship that feels good for you. And this could it could be as simple as walking around your block. It doesn't have to, I encourage everybody to move that body, work that body, as my mom would say. But also you want to, you don't want to give yourself a hard time about this is not the time to give ourselves the Virgo season's over. So we can't lash out on no more time to be so disciplined on yourself where you're overcritical and then you're being hard on yourself. And cause then you don't get things done you can't get things done from that place either. And so, one of my things that I've been thinking about is, again, just using the breath to then act as a visual guide, as a visual aid to sweep it becomes like either here's real talk. When I tune into my center of gravity and I practice the breathing, the 1 to 3 breath reset, or, a meditation, just sit to meditate, I come into my rhythm of my breathing, whatever that is for the day, honor it. And then I use the inhale and the exhale like elements. I use the elements. So sometimes I'll allow my breathing, my inhaling and exhale, to be like winds that blow and sweep things around, moving the energy around, sweeping out things. So it's cleaning and clearing and lightening, getting things lighter, dusting. And then sometimes I use the water, and I really can feel and visualize a rippling of the waves pulling in to center and away from center, and just feeling that ebb and flow of the tides. I do that more than anything, the water. And then, of course, there can be there's actually a breath of fire in yoga. With the breath of fire, you're actually creating a really suctioning, pumping effect, a rhythmic pumping, fast effect on pumping, a rhythmic, fast pumping effect with the diaphragm. That's like breath of fire. I do that sometimes. But my favorite is the rippling out, the water. And so I'm offering up suggestions and ideas, again, because I want you to try them on. Like, we're going through, just think of this time as like the rebranding, like I was saying in the previous session. We really are in a moment where we're rewriting our script. You can rewrite the script right now. And part of that fun in doing that, like, it can be sometimes heavy and daunting, because it's like, what do I want? I've got a blank canvas. What do I want to put my energy on right now? And what you'll actually find is when you tune into center, there will be things that show up consistently. Feedback. It's like the same. It's like that subject, because I'm telling you, your mission is your mission. There's like, you can't get away from it. You'll just do it or you don't. But it's going to be knocking at your door until you decide to challenge accepted. I like to say that. I was like, challenge accepted, because it's like, you're going to either do it or you're not. And so part of this time is again, kind of getting like playing and experimenting and exploring your own practice and your own relationship to yourself and your senses. Like the senses, like, what do I see? What kind of colors am I drawn to? What kind of patterns am I drawn to? What kind of lighting do I like? What about the way I'm smelling? What are my favorite smells right now? What are my favorite tastes right now? What's my favorite music? What am I listening to right now? It's also reflective. It's giving you feedback, outside feedback, to know yourself more, to relate to yourself more. And so, frankly, the core calibration piece, the core calibration, Pilates, yoga, meditation, movement, somatic healing, I feel like it's one of the most important skill sets we can be developing right now, in addition to the cosmic sync, the connecting with the rhythms of the sun and the moon and relationship to earth. Because see, the whole thing is this is about us having a relationship to ourselves on the planet, earth. How we can do that is through the cycles of the sun and the moon. That helps us keep the rhythm and the timing to understand where and how we are in time and space. The planets are all extra credit stuff. All the extra, that's what I mean. Everything else is extra. And this is the whole thing. It's like, when you understand your self-centered coordinates, when you coordinate your mind, body, and spirit, and you tune into the moment, wherever you are, location, in time and space, what time of season, what's this time mean to you? What does this rhythm do for you? When you make these connections to yourself and you relate to yourself in relationship to the world that surrounds you, this is balancing the harmonic axis. This is balancing the axis of within and without. It's the axis of the self and the other. Expression, relation, So cool. And I want to encourage you to be brave. I'm sure it's actually not hard at this point, but be consistent. It's about our consistency now and showing up and just putting in some of the work. And it's really actually putting in some of the play, putting in some of the experimenting. We're like scientists or explorers or pioneers. That is so Aries. We are pioneers of the new dawn, of this new wave that's coming through, this new age that's being born, this new earth that's being regenerated. And we're the pioneers. So we're on the front lines. If you're even remotely thinking in these levels like I'm speaking of today and you're tuning in, you're on the level with me here with this work and how we are on this cutting edge, setting a new foundation and a new vision, a new trail for humanity to follow, to take, a new trail for humanity to take. Because the old way is done. That old trail has got so many things on the trail that are, it's cluttered. And we need a new trail. And so part of that is you relating to yourself and learning how to tune in and be yourself to your fullest. Which used to sound heavy, it's not. So, okay. So before we talk about the full moon, I want to reiterate the concept around self-expression as it relates to word, sound, and power. So I love this phrase, word, sound, power. I got it from the Rastas. It's like part of my roots too, little old school Rasta roots that have evolved to some, who I am now. It's all part of my tapestry of my life's experiences. However, I love this concept. I was speaking about this with my bestie the other day of how the Rastas, in reggae, like Bob Marley, I love bringing up Bob the Prophet. He would talk about how they don't say understand. They say overstand. I actually heard Deion Sanders the other day talking about one of his players on his team who he loves and treats all of the players like his sons. He said, I love him to life. Instead of I love him to death, he said, I love him to life. I found that to be so beautiful. If we could love more to life, if we could overstand the power of our language, whether it's the words that come out of our mouth or it's actual inner speak, how we speak to ourselves. This is a big practice that I'm working on with my embodiment and my relationship with myself and my language. I'm kind of always thinking about this. I love thinking about words and etymology and how and why and the power of the words that we choose. And I'm revisiting this word sound power thing and how important, back to the rippling out and rippling in, that wave of the breath, but also the pulse of my vibrational resonance, is holding a frequency of my presence and my energy, my self-expression, the language I'm speaking to myself or the language I'm using in the world. And I just find it to be as empowering and as important as my embodiment practice to then keep this clarity and high level of language, of word, of rhetoric, the way that I speak. I'm looking for my rhetoric to match the vibration that I'm focusing on as well, the vibration I'd like to express, to put forth, to pioneer. Okay, so, It's a life, it's never done. Like this work is a lifelong practice and we'll never, I'm not going to put any limits on myself, but it's a big practice. And I've just, it's fun. I feel like sometimes I spin plates a little, or I've in the past have been spinning plates where I can focus on one aspect of my evolution or my my consciousness, my progress in my consciousness, so to speak, or my self-development. I can focus on, I used to be able to just like focus on one of these things at a time. And the integration is calling, like this time period that we're living in. It's been perfect time to just put all the pieces together. And that's kind of the message, is like, I'm putting all the pieces together, picking up those pieces and putting them in a place where they're integrated and balanced. And again, resonating a frequency or a vibration that is reflective of my self-presence and expression right now, my intention and prayers. Okay, so let's talk about the full moon. The full moon is happening on September 29th at 3:57 a.m. Mountain Time, and this full moon is in the sign of Aries. A full moon is when the sun and the moon are on opposite sides of the planet Earth. And so the sun's light is reflecting on the moon, making it full. New moons are when they're on the same side as the Earth. So this full moon means that the sun and the moon are on opposite sides of the planet, and the sun is in the sign of Libra at 6 degrees, opposite the moon, 6 degrees Aries. And this is really cool for me. I love studying this. I love the moon cycle. I was talking about this in July because the nodes transitioned into the sign of Aries and Libra back in July. And I was reflecting on, if you wanted more insight into the upcoming eclipses or what this nodal axis is going to be bringing up karmically and dharmically, is a way to get some insight in my perspective is by going back to the new moon in Aries that took place in April of 2023. It was a new moon in Aries, and it was interesting because it was an eclipse, or it wasn't an eclipse because the node was in Taurus, not Aries. But it had effects and influences of what's to come, because now the North Node is in July, it moved from Taurus into Aries. And so here we are at the beginning of this time period, which happens every fall. We have a new moon in Aries every autumn in the Northern Hemisphere, we have a new moon in Libra and a full moon in Aries. Every time in the spring, we have a new moon in Aries and a full moon in Libra. And you just start to learn this stuff when you study the zodiac and when you study the solar and lunar cycles. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because we've had some previews and some insights that have this is what I found. So if you don't know what the nodes of the moon are, this is like a whole workshop, really. I'm not going to drop the workshop on this pod, but what you want to know about the eclipses is that they happen every 6 months approximately, and there's anywhere from 2, sometimes 4 eclipses in one cycle. And then within about 18-month period, they change signs of the zodiac. So we just spent the last year and a half with the nodal axis in the North Node in Taurus, the South Node in Scorpio. And we had a bunch of lessons within our understanding and our relationship to that zodiacal axis, which holds a lot of wisdom and it's like wisdom on how to live and how to evolve, really. This is the way I look at the zodiac. I always talk about the evolution of the zodiac. Part of understanding the polarity in these full moons is understanding the balance between spring and fall. the balance between Libra and Aries, or the balance between the self and the other, within, without. So that's what this eclipse cycle is bringing up. Now, again, back in the spring, we had a new moon in Aries. So you can look in your journal or look in your own life and reflect what was going on. What were some of the things I was focusing on during that new moon in Aries back in April 2023. Another way that you can do it is to tune in right now, because this full moon that's coming on the 29th of September is happening in the sign of Aries. However, it's, once again, it is not an eclipse. We're not in the eclipse yet. So the nodes are not close to the sun and the moon at this point. So they're not lining up exactly. So it's not an eclipse. However, what's interesting about this moment in time, I'm calling it pre-eclipsing or pre-eclipsing, is that from this point of fullness, full moon, we're going to feel the wane of the lunar cycle. It's going to wane and phase towards a new moon in Libra, which will also be a south node solar eclipse. And it's a big one, especially for the United States. If you want to look at the map of where this eclipse can be seen from the United States, we haven't been able to see one since 2017. Before that, there wasn't one visible from the United States for like some 30 years. So there's a big one in 2017 in the axis of Leo and Aquarius. And then we have this one that's coming up in the axis of Aries and Libra. And we have another one coming up next spring in the axis of Aries and Libra that's also visible from the United States. So check out the almanac. I love the Farmer's Almanac. It's a great place to find a lot of this lunar and seasonal data, the seasonal information of like, when is the eclipse happening? What time? Where at? So all these things. So check out that map. It's really cool. And you may have heard this before, but like this eclipse that's happening, that's coming up, that we're preparing for, and then the one that's coming in April, when you look at the map of where they cross across the United States, it makes a giant X. One's coming in, it looks like it traverses from the West Coast down through the southern part of the country towards Texas. And then the one in April, the one coming in April 2024, it looks like it's traversing from the East Coast down toward the Texas southern part of the country again. So it's a trip. Yeah, Texas. But part of the fun in that is to just check out, so again, you want to get to know where you are in time and space. You may want to get to this full moon or this new moon eclipse, the solar eclipse that's coming up. It's going to be they call it a ring of fire, because it's an annular eclipse. It's pretty aligned with the sun, but it's not total. So people won't see like the coronal flares and all the rays coming out of the sun, so to speak. But you will be able to see a ring of fire, as they call it, that goes around the shadow of the moon. So the moon goes in front of the sun. It lines up just enough to make it look like there's a fiery ring around the moon. And then it moves on. Ooh, it's such a trip. I love these eclipses. So just even thinking about the eclipse like that alone is that eclipses are where the sun and the moon and the earth align perfectly together. Well, not perfectly, but they align together closer than they do the rest of the full moons and the new moons throughout the year. It's just these ones that occur during eclipses are the ones where they're all sun, moon, and then in that space, the node is the space where they come together, the sun and the moon, and align with earth. And you know me, I love it. It's like a core calibration. It's a cosmic core calibration. When the sun and the moon and the earth align. And so that's coming up. We'll talk more about that eclipse as it approaches when, I'll drop a podcast before that. But this full moon that's coming up is just as potent, because it's giving us, again, a preview, a pre-eclipse to understand this axis. And I'm telling you, full sun, like full moon is like full luminosity. right? Full illumination. And so when we have full light, when we have full sun, full luminosity, we can see. It's like things are lit. So you have an opportunity to see things that maybe are not usually seen. This particular full moon is offering more insight into seeing within. It's looking within from without yourself on a whole deeper level, being able to like shine a light within. And it's almost like taking that inside and bringing it out, that expression, self-expression. And so this full moon is a card, the one thing I want to say about this axis, the axis of within and without, or the axis of Aries and Libra, is that it's a cardinal axis, which means that it's a beginning. It's the beginning of a season, the beginning of a seasonal cycle. It's a lot of manifest. Cardinal energy really reflects the manifesting generator energy that's relates to human design. I like to say that because I think it's interesting, that the cardinal energy represents that we're beginning something. We're starting a new cycle. We're beginning again. And Aries being the first sign of the Zodiac is the ultimate beginning, and so this full moon is showing us where we can begin again from within, relating it to without. And how do we relate to the outside feedback that we're being given? How do we let that influence or affect with ourselves, our within? Gosh, it's so, so deep. And I just love these layers because, again, they're opportunities where you can relate to it in your own unique way. You have your own unique relationship to these things. And that's so much of my intention around sharing this information, is that you have an experience and then you make your own relationship to it. Because what's cool about this, again, is like if you're following along with me and you continue to, then we're going to ride this wave together. We're going to feel this wax towards this full moon, and then we're going to feel the wane in toward the new moon eclipse, and we'll have an experience. 2 weeks later, we'll have another eclipse towards the end of October. Got a full moon eclipse on the 28th of October. So like there's a lot going on, and it's just like instead of projecting and saying, like I said, there's base things that are there, but I also hope that you observe for yourself and make your own connection and your own relationship to this work, because in this moment in time, because that's going to help you customize, get the insight and the guidance you need to make moves or have fun or experiment, to get to know yourself better and have a fulfilling relationship with yourself and with the world that you live in, the people in your life and the things that you do, how you share yourself with this world. And so that's what this full moon is giving me vibes around. I also want to say that a moon in Aries is a little, Aries is very instinctual and head first. And the moon is more intuitive and subtle and sensory and emotional even. And the fiery energy of Aries is very direct and, like I said, instinctual. It's very head first is like the best way I can describe it. There's very much a penetrating effect and the Aries quality brings. It's I am me. And the moon is more of a tuning into it. So you see, once again, another example of how this is a time to really tune in within, deep within, and let your soul shine. Also to let the light shine on your soul so that you can see yourself in a whole new way, a whole new light. And let that instinct, that intuition work together to help you to take action and feel inspired in your self-expression. And to truly let go of what, I say it so often, but to let go what is no longer serving the self, the higher self, or the pioneer, the mission that you're on. So I just am super excited. I can feel it. I can feel it already. It's happening right now. And also I say this too, that with this full moon, it's not an eclipse, but Mars is conjunct the south node on this moon. And so Mars, being the planet of Aries, holds a potent influence on the chart, and having it being conjunct with the south node is giving me full on let that bleep, let it go, act now, let that stuff go. Act now. That's the Aries. The act now energy, the Mars energy, and the Aries is we are seriously cutting cords right now. We're cutting cords of old ways, old paths, old relationships, old dynamics, and not just relationships with other people or beings, but relationships with things, like with work or with our sense of ourself, our identity. Really, this is a lot about identity, Aries. And so it's like part of you that you thought, so many people just like, my work is me, I identify as my work and my job, and or there, we've been going through like a lot of identity politics in the last, forever really, but it's been heated the last few years. And, part of the Aquarian age is recognizing that all humans, all sentient beings have a right to be. Everybody's here. Everybody gets the right to be if they're here. And even when they're not, their energy is. But it's, it's like this, we're learning to, like, part of the healing of that is self-acceptance on a pure level, not just the surface level. It's the depths within that needs the love and the healing and also the surrendering and the letting that old stuff go. So your relationship to, the world or outside you, the feedback that you're getting and how you react to it, it's like I was saying in the previous episode, as far as like how important it is for all of us to be taking a higher sense of responsibility for ourselves right now. This is another layer of that. It's like to be honest and real with how you're relating to the world or to your situations. And for me, it comes down to like, I'm not going to just, everything's, life happens, things happen. And it's not so much about making sure that things don't happen, but it's about how I respond and react and how I manage these things as they come up. How do I adapt and recenter myself to stay balanced in challenging wave cycles or challenging moments in time? And it's the true test is like, how quick do I pivot? That's what I like to tell myself. It's like, how quick do I pivot? Because if I'm lingering too long on that side of the hill, well, everybody else is, it's like, what good is that? Don't linger on the side of the hill. You got to get to the top of the mountain. That's my Capricorn. Onward, up the hill. But seriously, you could sit and wallow in your own self-pity, or you can get up, dust yourself off, and keep going. And let that stuff go. That's holding you back. Believe in yourself now more than ever. That's what this full moon is asking. Believe in yourself. Self-worth, so important. Cut those cords and those ties that are no longer serving or tying you down or holding you back and keeping you from really feeling that radiance, that soul shine that is the light that dwells within you. And we want to practice cleaning and clearing that so that we can let it shine out and be of service, be a positive reflection for the world. Because the more of us that are being that, then we meet more of that. It's like your like attracts like. Your vibe attracts your tribe. Your vibe attracts your tribe. You want to do your best to hold yourself accountable to what are you trying to create here? What kind of experience are you looking to have? This is where we get to do some of this deep work, and I'm excited about it. The other thing I want to say about this full moon is that that Uranus is going to be exactly squaring Venus, 22 degrees. Uranus, 22 degrees Taurus, square Venus, 22 degrees Leo. Why I feel like this is important is that obviously we're developing new values and new systems and new ways of being and relating and expressing ourselves. And with the square element to this transit, I feel like there could be parts of ourselves that we've been denying as far as our powers, our special powers. Like, I feel so many of us have been becoming more heightened in our ability to be clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient. This is basically extrasensory development through this through the senses, the clairs, as I like to call them. So a lot of us have been kicking this at, like, this has been coming on, especially since 2020, but probably for many of us our whole lives. But a lot of people are I feel and sense that people are getting more and more every day with all the pressures and the transformation, that the changes that are happening in our world. People are being more heightened. Their superpowers are revealing. But it's interesting because there's also probably some people that are resisting this, and that's the square. It's like, what am I resisting in my own healing, but also in my own connection to how I'm relating to the world through my senses and through my extrasensory system? Like, when I know something in my heart, am I listening? Like, when I talk about the extrasensory system, I also like to think of it as juxtapositioning the senses. So, like, listening with your heart, feeling with your eyes, smelling with your taste. So it's playing with that, with your ability to tune in different ways so that you can catch the message. That's all this is about, is being able to tune in enough so that you get the messages you need to do you, to be you. It's like I don't know. I was going to say it's like a scavenger hunt kind of. It's like we're just going along. Actually, here I go. I was talking about the Tom Petty song, Running Down a Dream. It's like one of my favorite songs, and Widespread Panic covered it this summer at Red Rocks. And I didn't have a relationship to this song until this summer. And when I really listened to the lyrics, I always loved it, but I really loved it after I heard JB sing it. He goes, yeah, I'm running down a dream that never would come to me, working on a mystery, going wherever it leads. I'm running down a dream. And then he says, I rolled on, the sky grew dark, I put the pedal down to make some time. There's something good waiting down this road. I'm picking up whatever is mine. Yeah, I'm running down a dream. So you see, it's like, that's the Aries full moon. That's this axis, North Node Aries. It's like seriously the song of the North Node Aries. Like, go down that road and pick up what's yours and let your, like, this is for you. This is your opportunity to, like, make the dream happen. You never would have thought you could, but you can. You can. I believe. So it's another Coach Prime business. But before I move on from this full moon talk, I want to get into Libra, like specifically as the sun is in Libra. Before I get into that, I want to bring up the fourth Hermetic principle of polarity again, which is this full moon. And, the 7 Hermetic principles are so much like the evolution of the Zodiac. This is what I've learned from studying the moon. Honestly, there's a wax and a wane to everything. And when you understand, you can look at something and you can put that template onto something and watch how you can grow through the process. So the 7 Hermetic principles, I'm not going to get into the whole thing of them, but I want to talk about polarity, which is the 4th one. And what's interesting about again, how you understand where you are is by kind of looking what's around you. What came before, what's going after, if you know. Or if you don't know, then you want to direct it to the direction that you want it to go. But with the polarity, the Hermetic principle of polarity, it comes between the principle of vibration, which is everything's moving and pulsing. Everything is energy. And so that energy is moving. And then polarity comes in and creates a balance between that movement. So there's the polarity, the oppositional energy the duality that's moving and vibrating. And then from that movement and vibration of the polarity, a rhythm is developed. There's a rhythm. That's the fifth Hermetic principle, is rhythm. And so understanding that like right now we have like a vibration. There's that kinetic energy again. Everything's moving, which means I've got to find that balance between the poles. I have to find that duality, understand the rhythmic nature of that duality, and then work a rhythm so that I don't get too far in one direction. I find a rhythm and a grace in the middle. Dun, dun, dun. Living in rhythm, baby. Okay, so, well, and I'm, there's so much to do, but we'll get, one day at a time, baby. Okay, so the last little cosmic sync thing I want to talk about is I want to talk about the sun in Libra, because I kind of hinted on it last sesh, but, the sun being at 6 degrees Libra for this full moon, we are now stepping in, we're through almost the first 10 degrees of the sign of Libra. So I want to talk about the zodiac a little bit, because it is always helpful to understand the evolution of the zodiac to where we are in the sign right now. So it always starts at Aries in spring, and that's that spark of life, the will to be. Then you go through Taurus. Taurus is understanding the world around, the senses. It's so much about material and sensing, tasting, touching, smelling, experiencing the world through the senses and through feedback on that realm. Then you get to the sign of Gemini, which is the mental energy. So after the will to live and be is had an experience through the senses, then the mind comes in and starts to integrate and put concepts and ideas together through the sign of Gemini. Once that process occurs, we evolve through the emotional phase of the zodiac, which is the sign of Cancer. This is where we tune in and sense on an emotional level the waves, the tides, the energies, the feelings, the guidance. From that place, we step into an empowered creative space that is the sign of Leo, which is that royal, radiant energy where we start to play and put things together. And it's a very empowering place because you've learned and you've thought and you've experienced and you've felt and you have a will to be. By the time you get to Leo, let's go. It's a play. It's really playful. Then you get to the sign of Virgo, which is about the deeper integration and starting to be, it's so analytical and detailed and precise and precision oriented. It's detail oriented and precision based. And it's got it's a grounded critical thinker because it's preparing, because as you leave the sign of Virgo, you step into the fall of the zodiac, which is Libra. And Libra represents the other. So you go through this whole process of recognizing, feeling, thinking, playing, experimenting, integrating, to now relating to the world outside of the self, which shows up through our partnerships, through our relationships, through the world at large around us. And again, it's understanding, being able to have enough balance in the zodiac of the evolution of the zodiac that came before that Libra can really help you to manage that feedback more. So understanding your relationship to yourself, to your senses, to the way your mind works, to how you feel and what your feelings and your emotions are and your intuition are telling you. And then having enough courage and strength to play with that, which is yourself. Hold yourself at a high regard, but in a grounded and integrated way. And again, that makes for great partnership if you can do it. If you can get it, you can get it if you try. I think that's some Ella or something. Okay, so that's the Libra. Libra is also like reflection. So it's the other, but it's reflections, because remember, I am another you. So when you get outside feedback, it's reflecting information that you need about yourself. So I often call it, if Aries is I am, or I am me, or I am, Libra is I and I. I am another you. Me and you. You and me. I and I. Reflect. So Libra is beautiful. I love it. And so it's a cardinal air sign. It's ruled by the planet Venus, just like Taurus is. And again, it's a very it's if you work the transits, if you work the zodiac, then it becomes this really grounded, diplomatic, graceful, beautiful, self-loving and appreciating, and also other recognizing and appreciating presence. And the Libras are beautiful, like a balanced Libra energy. Like I said, it's a reflection. I am another you. And the more we're holding that light and reflecting for each other, and we're balancing harmonically, boom, this is what we're going to get harmonized in this time and place. We got to harmonize this place. It's time. Okay, so the very last thing I want to talk about is I am offering this really very limited special opportunity to study one-on-one with me. I am going to be developing this into a program/course in the long run, but right now I'm offering a little special for folks. If you want to get in on the ground floor, I'll have limited space available, but I am doing something I'm calling Soul Synthesis, which is a living in rhythm immersion. So we'll dive deep into customizing and personalizing a practice and an understanding of your core calibration, cosmic synchronization, soul force, cultivation, so that we can live in rhythm, baby. Soul synthesis. I'm going to offer it it's a commitment. I want to be able to work with folks. I like to work with people for 12 sessions, which equals, if you look at it in the solar cycle, it's like 12 sessions is one season if you did it once a week. So it's like a transformative season to develop your own customized, personalized art and science of living in rhythm. Because as you know, it's a lifestyle. So hit me up. You can email me if you have questions about this, or you can just check it out on the website, livinginrhythm.com. Sign up for Soul Synthesis with me. And or you can just book a solo sesh. Either way, I'm ready to start pushing forward and moving and supporting others on a really personal, customized level. Like I'm ready to go deep with others that want to go deep with me. And that's part of this reflection time, because we'll all grow together if we do it. And I'm going. So let's go. If you want to come, you're invited. And either way, I'm so grateful for you. Thank you so much for tuning in, as always. I appreciate you. If you appreciate this work and this offering, please subscribe. You'll get notifications of when the episodes drop. Also, it helps the channel, it helps the pod get more audience. And so you can subscribe or share. I've got it on all the pod platforms for the most part, and definitely it's also on YouTube. So I'm ready. I'm ready. So get ready, y'all. And I hope you have a blessed full moon. Enjoy this time. Nurture yourself. Let that light in. Let it in so that you can shine without. And I got so much love and respect. So I got so much love and respect for you. Thanks again for listening. Have a wonderful moon.